What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's a good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here. Connor Rogers was the first analyst I saw that introduced Jets Nation to this name, Dont'e Thornton Jr. out of Tennessee. But some of you also asked for me to cover a breakdown, so we're diving into that today to see exactly who this player is and why this makes sense for us as a wide receiver that's projected to land on day 3 of the 2025 NFL draft class. And I'll be upfront with you guys, I didn't want to do this breakdown whatsoever just because I have Stephen Hill, Devin Smith, not amnesia, but PTSD. The size speed thing just never really worked with how we tried to utilize guys. And of course, there's the complete lack of ability to develop speed threats who only really worked vertical routes. But there was some surprising gems to Dont'e Thornton's game that landed me at the idea that this could be the ultimate developmental project. One of the intriguing thought processes to me around him is that one of the easy comps for him would be Jalen Hyatt from, a speed and usage standpoint. Of course, Hyatt also coming from Tennessee, which isn't necessarily a great NFL program by any means. Running backs have a hard time should have a hard time with the transition period, really any of their skill players on the offensive side of the ball. So there is going to be an extensive amount of work that they need to do. But let's dive into them and talk about what are some things I walked away liking. 6'5", about 205 pounds. This is the kind of player that you want to see at a X position, right? Runs the 40-yard dash at a 4.3 at the combine. So what you see on tape 100% matches the athleticism that he was able to go out there and display in Indianapolis. It's going to be your classic size speed prospect. Again, kind of as a quote at the beginning of the video, just something to keep in mind. He did lead his team in receiving yards and touchdowns as a senior with Tennessee. He actually led FBS with 25.4 yards per reception as well. So this is a guy that when you say big play threat and you kind of use that moniker to attach to somebody's name, he 100% embraces that, and it's displayed throughout his entire career. In fact, he averages, I want to say it was like 21.3 yards per reception over the course of his career between Oregon and Tennessee, where he transitioned to or transferred to. Former 4-star recruit, he was actually designated the top Maryland receiver. One of the question marks about him is going to be experience as well as what can he do, because Tennessee's offense is so wonky, and of course it's not like they have an elite tier level player that's going around one and different things of that nature. He really was going to be the guy for that offense. And so to still see that he finished his final year there with 26 catches for 661 yards and 6 touchdowns is going to be a little bit of a head scratcher, but only 65 receptions over 4 years. When you compare this in the Isaiah Bond video I did, for example, he had 99 over the course of 3 years. And we thought that was also a ton of underutilization or inability to become an impact player within his offense. Only about 534 collegiate snaps as well. So underutilized, really not necessarily a one-trick pony in the classic sense of that he only runs like go routes. There are a few different versions of routes that he runs, but he's basically a vertical playmaker, and there's not a ton of other elements to his game. I don't know if that is because it's just Tennessee and that's a lack of what they want to do, and they're just using the athleticism that they acquired to the best of its ability, or if it was something where he just didn't show an affinity for it in practice, and so they just completely excluded it from what they asked him to do. He has a former track background as well, and I think all of that is well represented in the speed he's put up. Relatively healthy. He did have a lower leg injury in 2023, which kind of cut some things short, but outside of that, which obviously didn't impact a ton of his 2024 season either, no real question marks there. Some stats to know with him, because when you look at some of these guys from an analytical profile, there are some things that can jump out to you about what we may be missing or some things that we might want to pay attention to. He led the class in yards after catch at a clip of 8.94 yards. Now, one thing to keep in mind with him that definitely isn't questioned is a lot of what he's doing from a yak standpoint is going to be on vertical routes. So this isn't like he caught a slant and he made a couple guys miss and took it to the house. This is him running like go routes and just being able to fly by some guys, and maybe somebody touches him but can't get him down on the way down, and he's racking up some of this yardage. Second in class in air yards. So this also lets you know that people are specifically looking at him to be that deep threat or that decoy. And he also led the nation in 50 plus yard catches with 6. Again, he clearly has a role in it. When he walks into the NFL on day one, he's clearly going to have a role there as well, as a guy that is going to be a deep threat, or he is going to be looked at to be that vertical playmaker whenever he's out there on the field, which is kind of a negative and a plus in the same token. Obviously, you want to use the strengths of whatever guys have in college and build on those. But in the same token, for anybody that's looking into a wide receiver depth chart and trying to figure out what could be going on when certain guys are on the field, this is a clear indication of what you're doing. And so a smart defensive coordinator can, roll some coverage, or if they happen to have a great coverage safety or something like that they feel like can run and bump with them, then they take some of those chances. We'll leave it for the cons, actually. Let's get into some of the pros that I really enjoy watching in his game. He can navigate early contact, not just when guys are trying to, run with him through like the drive phase or when they're trying to jam him early, but coming off the line of scrimmage, he actually has one of the better release packages, between it being varied as well as him playing to his size. He can go out there, mix things up really well, deliver some punches to DBs that I don't think they're quite ready for all of the time, because a lot of these guys in the class don't play up to the 6'3", 6'4" size that they're bringing. But this isn't a finesse guy by any means. He understands what he's bringing to the field, and he's looking to take advantage of it. He's aware of how to stack cornerbacks, and that is one of the best parts of him being a deep threat. Some of the other deep threats in this class don't have the same level of skill when it comes to consistently being able to do that, as well as being a great deep ball tracker. He actually brings in some pretty consistent contested catches throughout all 3 levels of the field when he does happen to get those rare opportunities in the short and intermediate ranges. Plays to his size, and he kind of has loose enough hips when you watch what he does on comeback routes that makes you think there is the potential for him to get a little bit more nuanced and get a better understanding of some of these other routes that he may be asked to do in the NFL. And when it comes to run blocking, he is right up there with some of the best in the class as well, like Eligeo Maynor, where he's looking to find somebody for seal blocks, or when he's just lining up on the boundary and he needs to lock in on his man, he's looking to go out there and completely wall you off from being able to do anything. And one of the plays that always sticks in my mind is DK doing like DK Metcalf kind of like holding a DB by his jersey collar, and he just can't go anywhere, right? He's trying to like fight it off, and it's just a tough thing to watch. I love that presence, and this is something you could potentially see in the coming years out of someone like Dont'e Thornton. There are going to be a ton of negatives, but I'll focus in on just some of the main obvious ones that are out there based on what you can kind of see. One of the biggest pieces is going into the NFL, where you're seeing an increasing too high safety look. This automatically caps the potential or the value of drafting someone like Dont'e Thornton right away, because he doesn't have another trick up his sleeve. He doesn't have another route that he can really go to help offset some of that stuff. So if he happens to be rolling out there on the field and you feel like we want to take a deep shot and he's our best guy to try to target, and suddenly it's too high safety shell look coverage, what do, right? You audible into something else, and now it's kind of a wasted personnel package. So you quickly want to at least give him another route or two where you at least feel comfortable enough being able to change some things in the event that you do need to audible up. Not your classic yak player. I know I put it out there that he led the class in terms of yak, but again, that is literally coming from vertical routes and what he can do there, as opposed to anything he's doing in the short intermediate range and kind of hitting home run plays in that facet. Really only has 3 routes to his game: goes, hitches, comebacks. There's not a lot of other nuance, not another lot of other looks that he's really getting. And because of the lack of experience on the field that we talked about, because they really put him into this one defined role, what do you really do with a guy like this, right? Especially when you want to talk about over the course of a rookie contract, because we've seen plenty of guys in recent memory 1-year breakouts, right? Let's say by year 4, he's not a complete receiver, but he's a guy that can be a threat at all 3 levels. He has increased his ability to run the full route tree, or at least a significant enough portion. And you add that to what he can already do in terms of being able to dominate a DB from start to finish in his route. 1-year breakouts are still getting paid a pretty hefty penny. So when you look at the long-term development plan for him, he might not really give you anything special until year 3, right? He could just be another guy like I talked about with Isaiah Bond, where he gives you that one game where he has 2 catches for like 86 yards and a touchdown, or maybe it's 2 touchdowns, right? And just like we've seen in college, he's consistently in the NFL scoring on play, or having a yards per reception of over, let's just say 18 plus, to be a little, kind of ease off the pressure a bit. So I don't know what you really do with a guy like this. Because it's a day 3 pick, I won't lose my mind if this is the player that Aaron Glenn decides we want to be that speed component of our offense, and they're willing to take the risk of Sean Jefferson, trying to coach this guy up and get him to be more of an impact player sooner than later. Some comps that come to mind, and it's really hard with players like this for guys that haven't, kind of phased themselves out of the league. Martavis Bryant, and then there's going to be some lesser known names out there that I caught wind of, like Matt Landers and Devon Vale. So we'll see what ultimately happens. I think a lot of teams from an analytical standpoint will have caught on to Dont'e Thornton here. So it's not like this will be a secret of any kind. I'm curious how high he can go, though. I think 4th round is probably his ceiling, but realistically, if he's sitting there at like the 5th, 6th round, I think it's worth a flyer, just depending on if you've already picked up a couple pass catchers or not in the draft at that point. But let me know what you guys think. Dont'e Thornton, that is my breakdown on him. If you have any other, of course, details, etc. to add in, let me know, and I'll catch you guys again. Peace.